Have you been hearing the buzz? This talk of massive, maybe unusually large tax refunds hitting people's bank accounts here in the US in 2026? I mean, it sounds almost too good to be true, right? Okay, let's dive into this and figure out what is really going on.
So, that's the big question we're going to tackle. Is this story about giant refunds the real deal, or is it just a bunch of financial hype? We're going to peel back all the layers and find out what's actually driving this whole story.
You know, the story really seems to kick off with a prediction from a pretty key official. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has apparently indicated that the first quarter of 2026, that's for the 2025 tax year, could bring some surprisingly large tax refunds. So, where in the world is this idea coming from?
Okay, so what could possibly cause this? Well, the heart of the issue is what you could basically call a withholding glitch. And to really get that, we need to do a super quick review of how tax withholding even works.
Every time you get a paycheck, you see that money taken out for taxes, right? That's tax withholding. Your employer does their best to estimate what you'll owe for the whole year, and they hold back a little piece from each check and send it straight to the government for you. Think of it as just prepaying your annual tax bill.
So here's the chain reaction, step by step. First, some recent changes to U.S. tax law created a bit of a disconnect. The payroll systems, the software that automatically figures out how much to take from your check, well, they just couldn't get updated fast enough to match the new rules. And the result is pretty simple, an overpayment. Too much tax was probably taken from people throughout 2025, which of course the IRS would then have to give back to you in 2026.
So, an administrative lag leading to bigger refunds, it makes sense. But the next logical question is, okay, how much are we really talking about here? Let's get into the numbers, but also, and this is so critical, what they actually mean for you in the real world.
On a national level, the numbers being thrown around are, honestly, they're staggering. The total estimated overpayment is projected to be somewhere between $100 and $150 billion. That is a huge amount of money that could flow back into the hands of taxpayers, which, could mean a pretty big boost for consumer spending in early 2026.
But what does $100 billion mean for you, right? Well, when you break it all down, the estimates suggest that this could translate to an extra $1,000 to $2,000 for an average household. Now that is a number that really gets your attention.
Okay, let's just pause right here, because this is probably the most important part of this whole explainer. We have got to separate the potential from the reality. So while the average household might see an extra $1,000, it is absolutely not a guarantee. For instance, if you started a side hustle or maybe sold some stock in 2025, you might owe more in taxes anyway, right? So this little withholding overpayment might just reduce what you owe instead of giving you a bigger check. At the end of the day, your personal financial situation is the final word.
So after looking at the claim, the reason, and all the numbers, what are the essential points you should walk away with? Let's just sum up the final takeaway here.
All right, let's boil it all down. First, this whole story is based in fact. There's a real administrative reason that could lead to overwithholding. Second, and this is a big one, this is not a guaranteed lottery ticket for everyone. Your personal tax situation is what matters most. And finally, really, the best thing you can do is just be proactive. Use this info to have a smarter conversation with a qualified tax pro about your specific circumstances. And that brings us to the end. We've kind of untangled the truth from the hype. The possibility is definitely there, but the outcome is totally personal. So I'll just leave you with this question to think about. Now that you actually understand the mechanics behind all this news, how are you going to prepare for your 2025 tax filing?
रिस्क सिर्फ मार्केट में होता है, प्लानिंग में नहीं। DGN कैपिटल मैनेजमेंट के साथ स्टॉक मार्केट, म्यूचुअल फंड और इंश्योरेंस। AMFI IRDAI सर्टिफाइड। Your success our priority.